Hi everybody and welcome back to FitFAQs, where your frequently asked questions about fitness and health will get answers. Now, let's jump straight into today's subject, which is muscle cramps during and right after exercise. Roll the intro. Now, to give this video a little bit more structure, I will divide this video into three parts. First part is what are muscle cramps. Second part is how can you prevent them, and the third part is how can you deal with it once you have it during your exercise. Now, what are muscle cramps exactly? Well, as for a definition, muscle cramps are sudden, involuntary, painful and palpable muscle contractions lasting for seconds to minutes. Now, muscle cramps can be divided into two separate groups. Now, the first group of muscle cramps is caused by a medical condition. That means that your muscle cramp is caused by either muscle illness or an electrolyte disbalance, which causes the muscle to go into a cramp. But that's not the kind of muscle cramps that I want to discuss today. So we're gonna just head on to the next group of muscle cramps, which are exercise-associated muscle cramps. Now, what are exercise-associated muscle cramps? Well, this means that because of fatigue, your muscle will go into a cramp right after or during exercise. Now, how does this mechanism exactly works? Well, due to the fatigue, your muscle will have an adapted neuromuscular control. That means that your muscle will contract differently when it's tired than when it's fit at the start of your workout. Now, what are the greatest risk factors for having muscle cramps? Well, one of the first is your training intensity, which means that when you're training at a higher training intensity than you're used to during a normal training week, your risk for having muscle cramps is greatly increased. A second big risk factor is an extrinsic one, meaning that the cause of it lies outside of yourself. And that risk factor is heat and humidity. When you're training in a hot environment with a high humidity, the chance of doing muscle cramps is greatly increased. Now, jumping on to the second part, how can you prevent muscle cramps? Well, there are a few strategies that you can apply during your trainings that will help you prevent having muscle cramps. And one of the first one is stretch the muscles that are prone to having muscle cramps before you work out. A second way to prevent muscle cramps is to slowly increase your training intensity. By doing that, you will prevent too big of an increase in training intensity, which will then increase the risk for muscle cramps. A third way to prevent muscle cramps is by having a sufficient nutritional intake. Especially carbohydrates can help your muscle to not be fatigued in an early stage of your workout. Now, the last strategy to prevent muscle cramps is magnesium supplementation. Now, I didn't write it down on the board because, in my opinion, it's one you need to be careful with, because when taken too much of, it can have some really negative effects on your body. Now, how does magnesium supplementation works? Well, it reduces the neuromuscular excitability of your muscles, and in that way it will reduce the risk at having cramps. Now, when you take too much magnesium supplementation, you run the risk of going a lot to the toilet, because magnesium is also used as a laxative. So my advice for magnesium supplementation would be stay away from it unless you have a lot of recurrent muscle cramps and you went to see a doctor and he's fine with it. Now, as a last part, how can you deal with muscle cramps once you have them? Now, the first thing you do is immediately stop with your exercises. Now, immediately after you stopped your exercise, start doing some passive stretching for the muscles that has gone into cramp. Apply this stretch for 20 to 30 minutes until you start feeling the cramp to fade away. Now, the last thing you can do after your passive stretching is by drinking sufficiently. This way you will stay hydrated. Now, to check if you are hydrated or you're maybe not hydrated enough yet, you can check your urine. Yippee! If your urine looks like a dark brown beer, this means that your body has a lot of trash fluids that it needs to get rid of. If your urine has more like the watery color or a transparent color, this means that your body is in its most hydrated states. Now, that will be all for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did so, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Leave any questions you might have in the comment section down below and subscribe. I think the circle is coming down here. Subscribe to our channel if you want to see more videos from us. And until next time.